The screens showed everything. Commander Ji-hoon Park stood on the bridge of his battered Corvette and watched Luna Base die. The station broke apart in silence, pieces spinning into the dark. 15,000 people lived there. His sister was one of them. The Zathari warships circled the debris like predators. Their hulls gleamed purple and gold under Earth's distant sun. Ji-hoon's hands gripped the edge of his command console. His knuckles turned white. "Sir?" "They're broadcasting again," his communications officer said. Her name was Hae-jin Kwon. She was 23 years old. Her hands shook as she worked the controls. "Put it through," Ji-hoon said. The main screen changed. A Zathari commander appeared. The alien looked like a mantis made of metal and hate. Its 4 eyes glittered with satisfaction. Behind it, human prisoners knelt in rows. Their faces were wet with tears. Some sobbed. Others stared at nothing. "People of Earth," the Zathari said in perfect human speech, "your resistance ends today. Your colonies are ash. Your fleets are scattered. Your hope is dead. We broadcast this across all your worlds so every human can see the truth. You are broken. You are ours. And you will serve us until your species forgets it was ever free." The alien gestured with one bladed limb. The camera moved closer to the prisoners. Ji-hoon recognized some faces. Fleet officers. Scientists. Teachers. The Zathari wanted humans to see their leaders weep. "Look at them cry," the Zathari commander continued. "This is the face of humanity now. Tears and submission. We have conquered 47 species across this galaxy. All of them broke the same way. All of them cried. All of them became servants. You are not special. You are not different. You are defeated." The broadcast ended. The screen went dark. The bridge was silent. Ji-hoon looked around at his crew. 19 people remained from a ship designed for 60. They were exhausted. Their uniforms were torn and patched. Some had bandages. All had lost someone. "Status report," Ji-hoon said quietly. "Life support at 40%, reported the engineering officer. His name was Sung-ho Yoon. He had been a civilian mechanic before the war. Weapons nearly empty. Hull integrity poor. We can maybe jump one more time before the drive gives out." Oh. Communications?" Ji-hoon asked. Hae-jin worked her console. "I'm picking up scattered signals. Other ships. Other survivors. They're using old emergency frequencies. Encoded. The Zathari haven't cracked them yet. How many? Hard to say. At least 40 separate signals, maybe more. They're being careful. Short bursts, moving constantly." Ji-hoon nodded slowly. 40 ships. Out of the thousands that defended Earth. The Zathari had crushed humanity in 50 years of war. They took colony after colony. World after world. They studied humans, learned their weaknesses, exploited every mistake. The aliens thought they understood humans. They thought breaking human spirit was like breaking a tool. Apply enough pressure, and it snaps. Show enough horror, and they weep. Make them cry, and they surrender. But the Zathari had made a mistake. A critical one. They measured human resolve by tears. "Sir," Sung-ho said carefully. Ji-hoon stared at the empty screen. He thought about his sister. About the 15,000 people who died at Luna Base. About the billions killed across 50 years. About the prisoners forced to weep on camera. He thought about the silence on his bridge. His crew wasn't crying. They were tired and hurt and grieving. But they weren't broken. "The Zathari think we're finished," Ji-hoon said. "They think tears mean defeat. They've conquered 47 species, and every one broke the same way. So they assume we're the same. They assume we'll serve them now. They assume wrong." He turned to face his crew. "Hae-jin, start coordinating with those other signals. Carefully. We need to know who's out there. and what resources they have. Don't reveal our position. Use the old resistance protocols. Yes, sir. Sung-Ho, I need you to strip every non-essential system. Weapons, life support, everything. Keep us alive and mobile. Nothing else matters. Understood. Everyone else, start cataloging what we know about Zathari tactics. Every battle. Every defeat. Every mistake we made. We're going to learn from them. A young officer raised his hand. His name was Tae-won Kim. Sir, there's only 19 of us. Against an empire. What can we possibly do? Ji-hoon smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. They wanted to see us cry. They wanted to break us. They wanted submission. Instead, we're going to show them what comes after tears. We're going to show them what happens when you push humans past the breaking point. We don't break. We adapt. Over the next hours, messages came in from the scattered human survivors. Encoded, brief, cautious. Each one reported the same thing. No surrender. No submission. Just cold, focused anger and the determination to survive. Dr. Minseo Choi transmitted from a hidden base in the asteroid fields near Mars. She had salvaged Zathari technology from destroyed ships. She was learning how it worked. Captain Yoon Sung-Ho reported from a stealth ship near Jupiter. He had 40 soldiers. They had been raiding Zathari supply lines. Small hits. Careful. Learning enemy patterns. Engineer Kwon Hee-jin, on Ji-hoon's own ship, had been studying Zathari communications. She was close to breaking their encryption. The enemy talked too much. They didn't think anyone was listening anymore. Across the solar system and beyond, humans who should have been broken were instead planning, watching, learning. The Zathari had taught them how to lose. Now humans would teach themselves how to win. Ji-hoon looked at the star charts on his screen. Red markers showed Zathari positions. Hundreds of them. The Empire controlled half the galaxy. Their military was vast, their technology superior, their experience overwhelming. But they had made one critical mistake. They thought the war was over. They thought displaying crying prisoners meant total victory. They thought tears were the end. Sir, Haejin said, I'm receiving a coordinated signal. Multiple sources. They're asking for a command structure. They're asking for orders. They're asking if we're going to fight. Ji-hoon thought about the Zathari commander's words. You are not special. You are not different. You are defeated. Send this message to all human forces, Ji-hoon said. The Zathari measured us by our tears. They assumed crying meant breaking. They were wrong. Tears are just water. What matters is what we do after. They wanted us to weep. We did. Now we're done crying. Now we erase them from the stars. He paused. Tell them this isn't revenge. Revenge is emotional. This is something colder. This is humans doing what humans do best. We learn. We adapt. We persist. And we never, ever forgive being underestimated. The message went out across encrypted channels. Across the solar system. Across the scattered human colonies. To every survivor who still drew breath. The Zathari celebrated their victory. They showed the crying prisoners, again and again. They thought the war was won. They didn't understand that for humans, crying wasn't the end of resistance. It was just the beginning of something far more dangerous. It was the quiet moment before the storm, the deep breath before the dive, the loading of weapons in the dark. The Zathari had seen humans weep. Soon, they would see humans fight, and they would learn the difference between breaking a species and making it angry. Ji-hoon looked at his crew. 19 people against an empire. It should have been impossible, but humans had always specialized in impossible things. 6 months passed. The Zathari Empire grew comfortable. Their patrols became routine. Their guards grew lazy. They assumed the war was over. They were wrong. In the asteroid fields beyond Mars, Dr. Minseo Choi worked in a hollowed-out rock that sensors couldn't detect. She had 20 scientists with her. They survived on recycled air and determination. The walls of their hidden base were covered with salvaged Zathari technology. "This is beautiful," Min Seo said, holding up a piece of alien circuitry. She was 40 years old and had spent her whole life studying xenotechnology. "The way they route power is inefficient. We can improve it." Her assistant looked confused. "Improve enemy technology? Everything the Zathari build assumes they're superior," Min Seo explained. "They don't innovate. They don't adapt. They just use the same patterns over and over. Humans are different. We see something that works and ask how to make it better." She had been collecting pieces from destroyed Zathari ships for months. Weapons, engines, sensors. Most of it was damaged, but Min Seo could see the patterns. The aliens built everything the same way. Once you understood the pattern, you could predict it, counter it, use it against them. "How long until we can replicate their stealth fields?" asked one scientist. 2 weeks, Min Seo said. "Maybe less. The math is simple once you see it. They're using gravitational lensing to bend sensor waves. But they're doing it the complicated way. Humans can do it better with half the power." On the other side of the solar system, Captain Sung Ho Yoon stood in the cargo bay of a stolen Zathari transport. His team had taken the ship 3 weeks ago, killed the crew, claimed the vessel. Now they used it to move through enemy territory without suspicion. "Report," Sung Ho said. His team gathered around. 40 soldiers, all volunteers, all people who had lost everything. They wore mismatched armor and carried weapons from a dozen different sources. Nothing matched. Everything worked. "We hit 3 supply convoys this month," reported Lieutenant Jin Suk Han. She was 19. Her whole family died when the Zathari bombed Seoul. "Minimal casualties on our side. The enemy doesn't expect attacks anymore. They're not watching. Created." "Good," Sung Ho said. "But we can't just raid supplies. We need intelligence. Patterns. Fleet movements. Anything that helps us predict where they'll be weak." "Sir, why not just kill them?" asked a young soldier. "Because killing a few ships doesn't matter," Sung Ho said patiently. "The Zathari have thousands of vessels. We need to be smart. We hit them where it hurts. We learn their routines. We make them afraid. Fear is a weapon too." Da. Back on Ji-hoon's corvette, now hidden in an unmapped nebula, Haejin Kwon worked at her station, surrounded by monitors. She hadn't slept properly in weeks. Her eyes were red from staring at screens. But she was close to a breakthrough. "Commander," she said, "I've cracked their communication protocols." Ji-hoon came to look over her shoulder. "Show me." Haejin pulled up streams of data. "The Zathari use quantum encryption. Very secure. But they're lazy about changing codes. They use the same patterns for weeks. Once you break one message, you can read hundreds." "What are they saying?" "They're bored," Haejin said with a slight smile. The Zathari thought conquering Earth would be exciting. Instead, they're stuck on patrol duty. Their messages complain about it. They talk about going home, about how boring humans are now that we're defeated. They're not paying attention anymore. Ji-hoon felt something cold settle in his chest. That's our opportunity. Over the months, other reports came in from across human space. Each one was carefully encoded. Each one told the same story. Humans were learning, adapting, preparing. On Titan, survivors had built a hidden shipyard inside the ice. They were building vessels from salvaged parts. Small, fast, armed with whatever weapons they could craft. In the belt between Mars and Jupiter, miners had converted their ore processors into weapons. Magnetic accelerators designed to move rocks could move anything, including projectiles into enemy hulls. On Europa, under kilometers of ice, humans had established a training center. They taught guerrilla tactics, how to hit and run, how to disappear, how to make every shot count when ammunition was scarce. And everywhere, humans watched the Zathari, studied them, learned their patterns. The aliens followed the same routes, used the same tactics, never changed their procedures. They had conquered 47 species the same way. They assumed 48 would be the same. Ji-hoon called a meeting. Not in person. That was too dangerous. Instead, he used a quantum communication network that Minseo had built from salvaged parts. Commanders from across the system appeared as holograms in his ready room. Status reports, Ji-hoon said. Minseo spoke first. We've successfully replicated Zathari stealth technology. Better than theirs. We're calling it the Blackout Drive. Ships equipped with it are invisible to their sensors. We can build them into any vessel. How many can you produce? Ji-hoon asked. I can equip 50 ships in the next month. 100 in 2 months. The technology is simple once you understand it. We can teach other engineers to install it. Sung-ho went next. My teams have mapped enemy supply routes across the inner system. They're predictable. They travel the same paths every week. We know when they're vulnerable. We also know where their command ships are, where their ammunition is stored, where they keep prisoners. Ji-hoon nodded. Heijin, communications? I can intercept and decode all Zathari military traffic, Heijin reported. I know what they're planning before they do it. I can also inject false data into their systems. Make them see ships that aren't there. Hide ships that are. Excellent, Ji-hoon said. He looked at the assembled faces. Tired faces. Determined faces. We're ready to move to the next phase. We've spent 6 months watching and learning. The Zathari think we're defeated. They think the crying prisoners they showed were the end of humanity. They're wrong. We weren't broken. We were studying. He pulled up a star chart. It showed the inner solar system. Red markers indicated Zathari positions. The enemy controls Earth's orbit. They have bases on Luna, Mars, and the major stations. They patrol with regular schedules. They're comfortable. They're not ready for war anymore. They think they've already won. What's the plan? Asked Sung-ho. Ji-hoon highlighted several points on the map. Simultaneous strikes. 12 targets. We hit them all at once. Supply depots. Communication hubs. Command vessels. We use the Blackout Drive to get close. We use their own communication protocols to coordinate. We hit hard and disappear. We make them doubt their victory. We make them afraid. Sir, one commander said. We're still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Numbers don't matter if the enemy can't find you, Ji-hoon replied. The Zathari conquered 47 species, using fear and overwhelming force. They expect resistance to fight the same way. Stand and die. We're going to fight differently. We're going to be ghosts. We hit and vanish. We never fight fair. We never give them a target. We make them paranoid. We make them see humans in every shadow. Minseo smiled. Psychological warfare. Exactly, Ji-hoon said. The Zathari broke us by showing crying prisoners. They thought tears meant victory. Now we show them what comes after tears. We show them that humans don't forgive. We don't forget. And we never stop learning. He looked at each hologram in turn. Pass the word to all human forces. The Silent Fleet launches in 1 month. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We've been quiet long enough. Time to remind the galaxy what humans can do when you push them past breaking. The holograms vanished one by one. Ji-hoon sat alone in his ready room. He thought about his sister, about the millions dead, about the prisoners forced to cry on camera. The Zathari wanted to see humanity broken. They wanted tears and submission. They got silence instead. Silence and preparation. The quiet before the storm. In 1 month, the storm would break. And the Zathari would learn that human tears weren't weakness. They were just the water that came before the flood. Ji-hoon returned to the bridge. His crew worked at their stations, tired but focused, ready. Hee-jin, he said, send a message to all human forces. Just 2 words. What words, sir? Ji-hoon smiled. It was a cold smile. The message went out across encrypted channels. 2 words. But every human who received them understood. Luna Base died 6 months ago. 15,000 people burned. The Zathari broadcast it as a victory, as proof humanity was finished. But humans remembered. And soon the Zathari would learn what human memory really meant. The silent fleet moved through the dark, like ghosts. 50 ships, equipped with Minseo's blackout drive, appeared on no sensors, made no sound, left no trail. They were invisible. They were patient. They were human. Ji-hoon stood on his bridge and watched the tactical display. 12 target zones glowed across the inner solar system. At each one, Zathari forces went about their routine patrols. Comfortable, unsuspecting, about to learn a terrible lesson. All ships report ready, Hee-jin said. She had grown into her role over 6 months. No more shaking hands. No more fear. Just cold focus. Synchronized strike in 10 minutes. Weapon status? Ji-hoon asked. Full loads on all vessels, Sung-ho reported from the engineering station. We used every missile we could salvage or build. Every railgun round. Every mine. This is everything we have. 1 shot. It has to count. It will count, Ji-hoon said quietly. On the other side of the solar system, Captain Yoon Sung-ho commanded the assault team designated Shadow 1. His target was a Zathari supply depot, orbiting Mars. The base stored ammunition and fuel for half the enemy fleet in the inner system. It was lightly guarded. The Zathari didn't expect threats anymore. Sung-ho's ship drifted close to the station. The blackout drive made them invisible. Through the viewports, he could see Zathari guards moving slowly along the station's exterior. Bored. Lazy. Perfect. Boarding teams ready? He asked. Ready, sir, replied Jin-suk. She commanded the assault squad. 20 soldiers in vacuum suits, armed with weapons designed for close combat. They had trained for this moment for months. Remember the protocol, Sung-ho said. Fast. Quiet. Leave no survivors to report what happened. Make it look like a systems failure. We want the Zathari confused, not alarmed. The ship's airlock aligned with the station's maintenance hatch. Cutting tools worked in silence. Then, they were inside. The Zathari never knew what hit them. Human soldiers moved through the corridors like death itself. No hesitation. No mercy. The aliens had shown crying prisoners to break human spirits. Now humans showed them what came after tears. It took 12 minutes to clear the station. Every guard dead. Every system sabotaged. Sung-ho's team planted charges throughout the ammunition storage. Then, they withdrew to their ship. Charges set, Jin-suk reported. Detonation? In 5 minutes. Get us clear, Sung-ho ordered. At the same moment across the solar system, 11 other teams hit their targets. Communication hubs went dark. Command vessels exploded. Supply convoys vanished. The strikes happened within seconds of each other. Coordinated. Precise. Devastating. Ji-hoon's target was special. He had chosen it personally. A Zathari propaganda station, orbiting Luna. The same station that broadcast the crying prisoners 6 months ago. The same station that declared humanity broken. His ship slid close. Weapons locked. Hee-jin had hacked their systems hours ago. The station's defenses showed false readings. Showed empty space where Ji-hoon's corvette hung like a dagger. Hee-jin, Ji-hoon said. Are you ready? Ready, sir, she said. I've looped their communications. When we strike, I'll broadcast our message on all Zathari channels. They'll see it. All of them. Good, Ji-hoon said. Fire. The corvette's missiles launched. They crossed the distance in seconds. The propaganda station's shields were down, sabotaged by Haijin's electronic warfare. The missiles hit clean. The station broke apart. Pieces tumbled into Luna's gravity well. Now, Ji-hoon said, Haijin activated the transmission. Every Zathari communication channel in the system suddenly carried the same signal. The aliens looked at their screens and saw something impossible, saw something they never expected. The transmission showed the same crying prisoners from 6 months ago. But before the video played, a human voice spoke. Ji-hoon's voice. Cold, clear, final. You showed us this to break our spirits. You thought tears meant defeat. You were wrong. This is what human tears look like to us. This is our motivation. Our reminder. Every human who died, every prisoner who wept, we remember them all. And now we make you pay for every single tear. The video played. But this time, after showing the crying prisoners, it showed something new. It showed the 12 Zathari targets, exploding, burning, dying, all in perfect synchronization. You wanted to see humanity broken. Ji-hoon's voice continued. Instead, watch your empire die. We're not crying anymore. We're coming for you. Every ship, every station, every world you control. We're going to erase you from the stars. Not because we're monsters, but because you taught us what happens when you underestimate humans. This is our education. Consider it complete. The transmission ended. Across the solar system, Zathari commanders stared at their screens in shock. 12 critical facilities destroyed in minutes. By an enemy they thought defeated. By humans who were supposed to be broken. On the Zathari command ship in Earth orbit, Commander Zathar watched the replay. How is this possible? He demanded. The humans were destroyed. We saw them weep. We broke them. His tactical officer worked frantically. Sir, all 12 attacks were coordinated. Precise. They knew exactly where to hit us. They knew our patrol schedules, our defense codes, everything. Where did they get this information? Sir, I think they've been watching us. Learning. For months. Zathar felt ice in his blood. The Zathari had conquered 47 species. All of them broke when shown their defeat. All of them cried and surrendered. Humans cried too, but they didn't surrender. They studied. They planned. They prepared. Find them. Zathar ordered. Deploy all patrol fleets. Find the human ships and destroy them. But the silent fleet was already gone. The blackout drive made them invisible. They vanished into the dark. And across the system, Zathari forces found only debris and silence. Over the next days, the Zathari tried to respond. They sent investigation teams to the destroyed facilities. They found only wreckage. No clues. No evidence. The humans had struck like ghosts and disappeared like smoke. Fear spread through the Zathari ranks. Patrols started seeing threats everywhere. Sensors that showed empty space. Strange readings that vanished. Ships that heard noises in the dark. The humans weren't even there, and already the Zathari were panicking. Sung-ho's teams continued their work. Small strikes, quick kills. Supply ships vanished. Patrol vessels went silent. The Zathari never knew where the next attack would come. Never knew if they were being watched. The psychological pressure built day by day. Min-seo worked non-stop to equip more ships with the blackout drive. Every vessel that came to her hidden base left invisible. The silent fleet grew. 100 ships. 200. Small vessels. Fast. Armed. Just enough to kill and run. Haijin monitored Zathari communications. She heard the fear in their transmissions. Heard them question each other. Heard discipline breaking down. The proud empire that conquered 47 species was learning what it felt like to be prey instead of predator. Sir, He-Jin reported to Ji-hoon, the Zathari are requesting reinforcements from their outer colonies. They're admitting they can't control the inner system anymore. Soft time, how long until reinforcements arrive? Ji-hoon asked. 3 weeks minimum. Then we have 3 weeks to make them regret ever coming to human space, Ji-hoon said. Pass the word. All fleet elements are free to engage targets of opportunity. Hit them everywhere. Make them spread their forces thin, trying to protect everything. Make them afraid of the dark. The campaign continued. Not a war of big battles. A war of terror. Of uncertainty. Of ghosts that killed and vanished. The Zathari had built their empire on fear. Now humans turned that weapon back on them. 1 month after the first strikes, Zathar stood in his command center and looked at the tactical display. Red markers showed lost ships, lost stations, lost personnel, hundreds of casualties, and not a single human ship definitively detected or destroyed. This is impossible, he muttered. We conquered 47 species. Humans were supposed to be weak, emotional, easy to break. His second officer spoke carefully. Commander, perhaps we misunderstood them. We saw them cry and assumed it meant defeat. But what if their tears were something else? What if crying was how they process pain before turning it into action? Zathar looked at the alien. What are you saying, sir? We studied 47 species. All of them broke the same way. But humans might be different. They don't break. They adapt. We showed them crying prisoners to humiliate them. Instead, we gave them motivation. We thought we were ending their resistance. We were starting something worse. Something. Zathar stared at the display, at the growing list of losses, at the spreading fear through his forces, at the impossible humans who refuse to stay defeated. Send a message to the homeworld, he said quietly. Tell them we have a problem. Tell them humanity isn't broken. Tell them we need help. And in the dark between the stars, Ji-hoon received the intercepted transmission and smiled. The Zathari were calling for help. The proud empire was afraid. The species that thought human tears meant weakness now understood the truth. Humans don't break when they cry. They reload. 3 months into the human campaign, the Zathari Empire began to fracture. It started small. A colony, refusing orders. A fleet commander making decisions without approval. Systems that had been controlled through fear, suddenly questioning that fear. On the bridge of his flagship, now properly repaired and upgraded with salvaged technology, Ji-hoon watched the intelligence reports flow in. The silent fleet had grown to 500 ships, still small compared to the Empire. But size didn't matter when you fought like ghosts. Commander, He-Jin said. We're receiving signals from non-Zathari sources. Species that were conquered by the Empire. They're asking if the rumors are true. They're asking if humans are really winning. What do they want? Ji-hoon asked. They want to know if we'll help them fight, if we'll share our tactics, if we'll teach them how to resist. Ji-hoon considered this. The Zathari Empire controlled hundreds of systems, dozens of species. Most had been conquered centuries ago. They had no hope, no way to resist. Until now. Dr. Choi, Ji-hoon said into the communication link. Can you reach the Velnara resistance? Minseo's face appeared on screen. She looked tired, but excited. I can. They've been broadcasting on old frequencies for years. The Zathari never bothered to shut them down because they seemed harmless. But if we give them weapons and tactics... Do it, Ji-hoon ordered. The Zathari built their empire through conquest. We'll tear it down by teaching their victims how to fight back. We don't have the numbers to beat them alone. But we don't need to. We just need to light enough fires. Over the next weeks, human operatives made contact with resistance groups across Zathari space. The Velnara, the Kroth, the Sistine, species that had suffered under Zathari rule for generations. species that had given up hope, Sung-ho took his team to a Velnara colony world. The Velnara were small, peaceful beings. They looked like otters made of crystal. The Zathari used them for labor, treated them like tools. Sung-ho met with their resistance leader in a hidden cave system. The Velnara leader's name was Teshla. She was old and scarred from decades of fighting. "You're really human?" Teshla asked, her voice full of wonder. "The species that makes the Zathari afraid?" "We're human," Sung-ho confirmed. "And we're here to teach you how to fight, how to hit and run, how to make them regret every day they controlled your world." "But we're not warriors," Teshla said. "We're not strong like you. Strength doesn't matter," Sung-ho said. "The Zathari are stronger than us too. But we win because we're smart, because we adapt, because we never give up. I can teach you that. I can teach you to be dangerous." He spent 2 weeks with the Velnara resistance. Taught them guerrilla tactics, how to sabotage infrastructure, how to disappear after strikes, how to make the Zathari garrison paranoid and ineffective. When he left, the Velnara were no longer defeated victims. Across the Empire, the same pattern repeated. Humans contacted resistance groups, shared tactics, provided weapons, taught the conquered species that the Zathari weren't invincible, weren't gods, were just another species that could bleed. The rebellion started slowly. A supply line disrupted here. A garrison attacked there. But they spread. The Zathari couldn't respond to everything. Their forces spread thin. Their commanders grew desperate. On the Zathari homeworld, the Imperial Council met in emergency session. Representatives from across the Empire reported the same thing. Loss of control. Spreading chaos. Systems falling into rebellion. And everywhere, whispers of humans teaching resistance. "This is unacceptable," declared the Prime Commander. "One species cannot threaten our entire empire. We've conquered 47 species. We'll crush the 48th. "Prime Commander," said an intelligence officer carefully, "the humans aren't fighting like other species. They don't hold territory. They don't protect their civilians. They just attack and vanish. And now they're teaching others to do the same. We're facing guerrilla warfare on a galactic scale. Then we increase patrols, we increase security. We make examples." Sir, we've tried that. Every example we make creates more rebels. Every crackdown pushes more species toward resistance. The humans are winning the propaganda war. Species across the Empire see them as liberators." The Prime Commander stood silent. The Zathari had built their empire on a simple principle. Overwhelming force breaks spirits. Show defeated enemies crying, and others lose hope. But humans had turned that principle into a weapon. They showed the galaxy that the Zathari could be beaten, that tears weren't the end, that resistance was possible. Back in human space, Ji-hoon received a priority transmission. The signal came from deep in Zathari territory, from a species called the Kroth. They were large, strong beings, natural warriors. But the Zathari had conquered them decades ago through superior technology and numbers. The transmission showed a Kroth commander named Vex Nor. His species had 4 arms and looked like bears made of stone. "Humans," Vex Nor said, "we've heard of your war. We want to join. Our people remember freedom. The Zathari took our worlds but not our spirits. If you help us, we'll fight." Ji-hoon considered. The Kroth were warriors. Experienced. Strong. If they joined the rebellion, the balance would shift dramatically. "What do you need?" Ji-hoon asked. "Weapons, tactics, coordination. We have warriors. We have the will. But the Zathari have us surrounded. We need a way to break their blockade. Get arms to our people. Then we'll show them what Kroth warriors can do." "Send us your system coordinates," Ji-hoon said. "We'll get you what you need." 3 weeks later, a fleet of human stealth ships delivered weapons to Croth resistance groups. The blackout drive allowed them to slip through Zathari patrols. The Croth received advanced weapons, explosives, communication systems, everything they needed to fight a real war. The Croth uprising began at dawn. Thousands of warriors attacked Zathari positions simultaneously. The aliens had grown comfortable, controlling the Croth through fear. They learned that fear only works until the enemy stops being afraid. The Zathari garrison on the Croth homeworld fell in 3 days. The aliens evacuated, retreated, left the system. The Croth were free, for the first time, in decades, and across the Empire. Other species saw and took hope. Sir, Heejin reported, we're receiving requests for support from 17 different resistance movements. The Empire is coming apart. The Zathari can't be everywhere at once. Jihoon looked at the galactic map. Red markers showed Zathari positions. But now, blue markers appeared. Free systems, rebel systems, human allies. The map was changing. The Zathari conquered through fear, Jihoon said. We're liberating through hope. Every species we help becomes another front they have to defend. Every world that rebels is another crack in their empire. We don't need to beat them militarily. We just need to make them spread so thin they can't hold anything. But with success came questions. As more systems fell to rebellion, Jihoon faced a choice. Some human commanders wanted to occupy liberated worlds, establish human authority, build an empire to replace the Cathari Empire. No, Jihoon said when the proposal came. We're not conquerors. We free species and let them govern themselves. We're not here to rule. We're here to destroy an empire built on suffering. If we replace it with our own empire, we become what we fought against. Not everyone agreed. Captain Daejung Cho commanded a battle group that had fought since the beginning. He met with Jihoon privately. Commander, we have the power now, Daejung said. We could take control, establish order, make sure no species ever threatens Earth again. Through fear? Jihoon asked. Through domination? That's what the Zathari did. We're better than that. Are we? They made us cry. Made us suffer. Why should we show them mercy? I'm not talking about mercy, Jihoon said. I'm talking about who we want to be. The galaxy is watching. If we become conquerors, we're just another threat. But if we liberate species and help them stand on their own, we become something better. We become the example that maybe, just maybe, there's a better way than empire. Daejung left unconvinced. Jihoon worried. The human fleet was growing powerful, drunk on victory. He had to make sure they remembered why they fought. Not for conquest, for freedom. On Zathar Prime, the Empire's capital world, panic set in. The Prime Commander reviewed reports of system after system falling into rebellion. The human silent fleet, striking with impunity. Allies abandoning the Empire. Fear, replacing pride. How did this happen? The Prime Commander demanded. We're the Zathari. We've ruled for 10,000 years. One primitive species can't destroy us. But the intelligence officer had the answer. Sir, humans don't fight like other species. They don't try to match our strength. They avoid it. They hit our weaknesses. They turn our own tactics against us. And most dangerous of all, they give other species hope. They show the galaxy that we can be beaten. That's more dangerous than any weapon. The Prime Commander stood at the window, looking out at the capital city. 10,000 years of empire. 47 species conquered. And now, undone by the 48th. By humans who refuse to stay broken. Who turn tears into weapons. Prepare the defense fleets, the Prime Commander said quietly. The humans are coming. And when they arrive, we'll show them why we rule this galaxy. But deep down, the Prime Commander felt something the Zathari hadn't felt in millennia. Doubt. Because the humans had already shown the galaxy something more important. They showed that the Zathari weren't invincible. And once that truth was known, the Empire was already dead. The silent fleet arrived at Zathar Prime on a day the aliens would never forget. 500 human ships. Thousands of allied vessels from freed species. They appeared from the dark, all at once. No warning. No declaration. Just sudden and overwhelming presence. On his flagship, Ji-hoon looked at the massive planet below. The heart of an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years. The world that sent the fleets to conquer Earth. The place where commanders celebrated human tears. "Hey Jin," Ji-hoon said. "Open a channel. All frequencies. I want every Zathari to hear this." The channel opened. Ji-hoon's face appeared on every screen across Zathar Prime. In homes. In command centers. In the Imperial Palace itself. 1. Billions of aliens looked at the human who had destroyed their empire. "People of Zathar Prime," Ji-hoon said. His voice was calm. Clear. Final. 6 months ago, your commanders broadcast a message to humanity. They showed our people crying. They declared us broken. They assumed tears meant defeat. They were wrong. He paused. Let the silence stretch. We didn't cry because we were broken. We cried because we're capable of grief, of feeling loss, of caring about each other. You saw our tears and thought they made us weak. They made us dangerous. Because beings who can feel that deeply can also hate that completely, can also fight that absolutely, can also remember forever. On Zathar Prime, the Prime Commander watched from the Imperial Command Center. His 4 eyes were wide. His limbs trembled. Around him, officers stared at screens, showing the massive fleet in orbit, showing the impossible, showing their defeat. We came to your world not for conquest, Ji-hoon continued, but to end an empire built on suffering. You conquered 47 species, made them weep, made them submit. You thought that was strength. It was cruelty. And cruelty isn't sustainable. Eventually, someone fights back. Today, that someone is humanity. And we brought friends. 3. The transmission shifted, showed Velnara ships, Kroth warships, vessels from a dozen liberated species, all flying together, all armed, all ready. Your empire is over, Ji-hoon said. Not because we destroyed every ship, not because we killed every soldier, but because we showed the galaxy you could be beaten. We showed your victims they could resist. We gave them hope. And hope is more dangerous than any weapon. Hope spreads. Hope inspires. Hope tears down empires that thought they would last forever. He leaned forward. So here are our terms. Unconditional surrender. Your military will be dismantled. Your conquered territories will be freed. Your government will be dissolved. The Zathari people will remain on your homeworld under observation until we're sure you've learned what it means to be peaceful. You have 1 hour to respond. If you refuse, we'll take your surrender by force. The choice is yours. The transmission ended. On Zathar Prime, chaos erupted. The Prime Commander looked at his advisors. At the tactical displays, showing overwhelming force in orbit. At the reality they had denied for months. Can we fight? The Prime Commander asked. The military advisor shook his head. Sir, we've lost 70% of our fleet. The remaining ships are scattered across the Empire, trying to contain rebellions. Even if we recalled them all, we're outnumbered. And the humans have technology we can't match. That's stealth drive. Their electronic warfare. Their tactics. We'd lose. Then we negotiate, the Prime Commander said. Sir, they offered no negotiation. Only surrender. The Prime Commander stood silent. 10,000 years of empire. 47 species conquered. All ending because they underestimated humans. Because they thought tears meant weakness. 53 minutes later, the Zathari government transmitted their surrender. Unconditional. Complete. The empire that ruled a quarter of the galaxy dissolved in a single message. Ji-hoon received the transmission and felt no joy. Only tired satisfaction. Sung-ho. Begin landing operations. Secure their military facilities. Confiscate all weapons. Set up observation posts. Min Seo. Coordinate with our allies. Make sure each freed species gets representation in what comes next. The occupation began. But it wasn't a normal occupation. Human forces didn't rule. They observed. They ensured the Zathari couldn't rebuild their military, couldn't threaten anyone. But they left governance to a council of freed species. Let the victims decide the future. 3 months after the surrender, Ji-hoon stood in what had been the Imperial Palace. Now, it was the archive. Dr. Min Seo Choi had transformed it into a memorial, a place to remember all the species the Cathari had hurt, all the beings who suffered under their rule. The walls were covered with names, billions of them. Every known victim of the empire, every person who died, every culture destroyed, every world burned. The Zathari were required to maintain the archive, to remember their crimes, to teach their children what their ancestors did. Do you think they'll learn? Min Seo asked, standing beside Ji-hoon. Some will, Ji-hoon said. Some won't. But that's not our decision. We destroyed their empire. We made sure they can't hurt anyone again. What they become now is up to them. What about us? Min Seo asked. What does humanity become? Ji-hoon thought about that. The silent fleet still existed. 500 ships, battle-hardened crews, advanced technology, enough power to conquer if they wanted. Some humans did want that, wanted to build an empire, replace the Zathari with human rule. We become teachers, Ji-hoon said finally. We showed the galaxy that empires can fall, that resistance works, that the strong can be beaten by the determined. Now we teach them how to defend themselves, how to work together, how to make sure no species ever builds an empire like this again. And if they don't listen, then we'll be here to stop them. But we won't rule them. We'll be watchful. We'll be ready. But we won't become what we destroyed. On Earth, now free and rebuilding, people celebrated. The Zathari were gone. Humanity was safe. The solar system was theirs again. But the celebration was quieter than expected, because humans remembered the cost, remembered the billions dead, remembered the tears. Ji-hoon returned to Earth 6 months after the surrender. He visited the memorial at Luna Base, the place where 15,000 people died, where his sister died, the place where the Zathari broadcast their victory. He stood before the wall of names and remembered the crying prisoners, remembered the anger, remembered the cold determination that followed. A young voice spoke behind him. Are you Commander Park? Ji-hoon turned. A Zathari child stood there, maybe 10 years old, in their terms. The child wore the simple clothes of civilians, of a conquered people, learning to live without empire. I am, Ji-hoon said carefully. My teacher says you're the one who defeated us, the one who destroyed our empire. Yes, the child looked up at him with wide eyes. Did you really erase us from the stars? Ji-hoon knelt down to the child's level. We erased what you were, what your people did, the empire that hurt so many. But we didn't erase your species. You're still here. You're still alive. What you become now is up to you. You can learn from your people's mistakes. You can be better. You can show the galaxy that the Zathari can be more than conquerors. What if we fail? The child asked. Then we'll stop you, Ji-hoon said honestly. But I hope you won't. I hope you'll choose peace. Choose cooperation. Choose to be neighbors instead of rulers. The child nodded slowly. My teacher made me come here, to the archive, to see all the names, to understand what our people did. It's a lot of names. Yes, Ji-hoon said softly. I'm sorry, the child said. For what they did. For all of it. Ji-hoon felt something tight in his chest loosen. Thank you. That matters. Remembering matters. Learning matters. That's why we built this place. So no one forgets. So it never happens again. The child left. Ji-hoon stood and looked back at the memorial wall. At his sister's name, among thousands. At the reminder of why they fought. Hee-jin found him there an hour later. She was a commander now, in charge of Earth's rebuilt defense fleet. No longer the scared young officer from months ago. War had changed them all. Sir, she said, the Council wants to know your plans. They're offering you a position. Fleet Admiral. Command of all human forces. I know, Ji-hoon said. Will you take it? He thought about that. Thought about power. About empire. About what happens when victors become rulers. About the choice between building something new or becoming something old. No, he said. The silent fleet did what it needed to do. Now, it's time for something different. We'll keep forces ready. Keep watching. But we won't build an empire. We'll build a defense. A warning. A promise that if anyone tries to conquer again, humans will be there to stop them. And you? Hee-jin asked. I'll teach, Ji-hoon said. Teach the next generation how we won. Not through superior force, but through adaptation, through persistence, through never giving up, through turning tears into fuel for the fight. That's the real lesson the Zathari learned. That's what we share with the galaxy. 5 years later, the archive on Zathar Prime was the most visited memorial in known space. Species from across the galaxy came to see the names, to remember the empire that fell, to learn the lesson humanity taught, and in the archive's main hall, a simple plaque held words in every known language. Words that summarized everything. Words that warned. Words that promised. They thought our tears meant weakness. They thought crying meant defeat. They were wrong. Tears are just water. What follows them is the storm. Remember this. Never mistake human grief for human surrender. Never assume our compassion means we cannot fight. Never think our tears mean you have won. Because humans don't break. We adapt. We persist. We remember. And we never, ever forgive being underestimated. Below the plaque, a single line. Added by the freed species. Added by the allies who fought beside humanity. Added by a grateful galaxy. When humans cry, empires should worry. Ji-hoon stood in the archive one last time before returning to Earth permanently. He looked at the names. At the memorial. At the future being built on the lessons of the past. The Zathari thought they broke humanity. Instead, they taught humanity what it could become, what it could achieve, what it would do when pushed past the breaking point. They wanted to see humans cry. They got their wish. And then they learned what came after tears. Not submission. Not defeat. Not surrender. Just cold, determined, unstoppable rage. And the complete erasure of an empire that thought human tears meant weakness. The storm after the tears had passed. But its memory remained. A warning. A promise. A reminder that humanity could be gentle, could be kind, could weep for its losses. But humanity could also be relentless, could be unstoppable, could turn grief into victory and tears into weapons. The Zathari learned too late. The galaxy would never forget, and humanity would make sure no one ever made the same mistake again.